Marcus Webb never thought the hardest mission of his life would happen on a quiet street in Georgia. The storm hit Valdosta just after midnight. Rain hammered the asphalt like artillery fire, turning roads into rivers. Lightning split the sky every few seconds, illuminating empty porches and flooding gutters. Marcus was driving home from the VA hospital when he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. High-pitched, desperate, almost human. He slowed his truck to a crawl, wiping condensation from the windshield. The sound came again, louder this time, a sharp, broken whine cutting through the roar of the storm. Marcus pulled over near the intersection of Pine and Oak Ridge, killed the engine, and stepped out into the downpour. Water soaked through his jacket in seconds. He stood still, listening. Years of recon training had taught him to separate noise from signal. This was signal. The crying was coming from the storm drain. He jogged across the flooded street, boots splashing through ankle-deep water. The grate sat at the edge of the curb, half submerged. Marcus knelt down, pulling out his phone and shining the light into the darkness below. Two eyes stared back at him. Small, terrified. A dog. The animal was trapped on a narrow ledge just above the rising water, its body pressed against the concrete wall. It let out another cry, weaker this time, as if it had been screaming for hours. Marcus's chest tightened. He'd seen plenty of things in his 12 years as a SEAL. Kumba. Loss. Brothers who didn't come home. But something about this moment felt wrong in a different way. He gripped the edge of the grate and pulled. It didn't budge. Rusted bolts held it in place. He pulled harder, muscles straining, rain pouring down his face. Still nothing. The dog whimpered again. Marcus looked around. The street was empty. No cars. No lights in the windows. Just him and the storm and a dying animal no one else could hear. He reached into his truck bed and grabbed a crowbar. Wedged it under the grate. Pulled with everything he had. The metal shrieked. The grate lifted an inch. 2 inches. Then it gave way entirely, clattering onto the pavement. Marcus shone his light back into the drain. The dog was shaking, soaked, barely holding on. But it wasn't moving toward him. It was staring at something behind it, something deeper in the tunnel. And that's when Marcus saw it. A leash, tied around the dog's neck, secured to a metal pipe bolted into the concrete wall. Someone had put this animal here, on purpose. If you're already wondering who would do this and why, hit that subscribe button. Because what Marcus finds next is going to shake you to your core. Marcus Webb hadn't always lived in Valdosta. Before the quiet streets and the late-night drives to the VA hospital, there had been Kandahar, Mosul, places where the heat cooked your skin and the silence before an ambush felt like the world holding its breath. He'd been a good SEAL, decorated, reliable, the kind of operator who never hesitated when the call came. But there was one call he did hesitate on. One moment that played on a loop in his mind every single night. His team had been clearing a compound in northern Iraq when they heard a noise. A child crying. Marcus had been point man. He'd raised his fist, signaling the team to hold. But the lieutenant had waved him forward. Intel said the compound was clear. The noise was a distraction. A trap. Marcus had listened. They'd moved through the building, room by room, and found nothing. No explosives. No hostiles. But when they exited the compound and regrouped outside, Marcus had heard it again. Fainter this time, coming from a storage shed they'd missed. He'd gone back alone. Inside he found a boy, maybe 7 years old, locked in a metal crate, dehydrated, barely conscious. The kid had been there for days, left behind by someone who didn't care if he lived or died. Marcus had carried him out, called for a medevac, stayed with him until the helicopter arrived. The boy survived. Marcus never learned his name, never saw him again, but he'd carried the weight of that hesitation ever since. If he'd ignored the lieutenant, if he'd checked that shed first, if he'd trusted his gut instead of the intel, how much suffering could have been avoided? Marcus had left the Navy 4 years ago. Honorable discharge. No fanfare. He'd moved to Valdosta because it was quiet, because no one knew him, because he thought distance might dull the edges of memory. It hadn't. He worked part-time at a logistics company and spent his evenings at the VA, talking to other veterans who couldn't sleep either. Some of them had it worse. Some of them had it better. None of them had answers. His apartment was small, clean, empty except for a couch, a bed, and a stack of books he never read. He didn't have a dog, didn't have a family, didn't have anything that could need him. And maybe that was the problem. Because when Marcus knelt in that storm drain and saw the leash tied around the dog's neck, something inside him cracked open. Not in a breaking way, in a way that felt like waking up. He climbed down into the drain, boots slipping on the wet concrete. The water was rising fast, already covering the bottom of the tunnel. The dog watched him approach, trembling but silent now. Marcus spoke softly. "Hey, buddy. I got you. I got you." He reached for the leash, fingers working at the knot. It was tight, deliberately tight. Not the kind of knot you tie in a hurry. Someone had taken their time. The dog didn't growl, didn't snap, just stared at him with those wide, glassy eyes. Marcus got the knot loose and scooped the animal into his arms. It was a mutt, maybe 30 pounds, ribs visible under matted fur. Shaking so hard Marcus could feel it in his chest. He climbed back up, cradling the dog against his jacket. The rain was still coming down in sheets. Lightning flashed, turning the street white for half a second. And in that flash, Marcus saw something he hadn't noticed before. A car parked 2 blocks down. Headlights off. Someone sitting in the driver's seat. Watching. Marcus didn't move. The lightning faded. The street went dark again. He couldn't see the car anymore, but he knew it was there. He could feel it. The way you feel a presence in a room before you see it. He adjusted his grip on the dog and walked back to his truck, moving slowly, deliberately, not looking toward the car, not giving anything away. He set the dog on the passenger seat and climbed in, started the engine, pulled onto the street like nothing had happened. But he checked the rearview mirror. The car didn't follow. It just sat there, lights still off, motionless in the rain. Marcus drove straight to the 24-hour emergency vet on the edge of town. The clinic was bright and empty except for a tired-looking receptionist and a vet tech scrolling through her phone. The receptionist looked up when Marcus walked in, soaking wet, carrying a shivering dog wrapped in his jacket. "Found him in a storm drain," Marcus said. "He's hurt." The tech came over immediately, taking the dog from Marcus's arms with practiced care. She disappeared into the back. The receptionist handed Marcus a clipboard. "We'll need some information. Is this your dog?" "No," Marcus said. "Like I said, found him. Do you want to surrender him to animal control or—" "No." The word came out harder than he meant. He softened his tone. "I'll take care of it. Just make sure he's okay." The receptionist nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Marcus sat in the waiting room, staring at the fluorescent lights overhead. His mind kept circling back to the same thing. The leash, the knot, the car in the rain. Someone had put that dog in the drain, tied it there, left it to drown, and then stayed to watch. The vet came out 20 minutes later. A woman in her 40s with graying hair and kind eyes. Dr. Ellen Pritchard, according to her name tag. "He's going to be okay," she said. "Dehydrated, malnourished, some cuts and bruising, but nothing life-threatening. We've got him on N4 now." Marcus exhaled. "Can I see him?" Dr. Pritchard hesitated. "You said you found him?" "Yeah, in a storm drain off Pine Street." Her expression shifted. Something unreadable passed across her face. "Did you see anyone else around?" "Why?" She glanced toward the back room, then lowered her voice. "This is the 3rd dog we've seen like this in 2 months. Same condition. Same story. Found in drains or abandoned buildings. Always during storms." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "Someone's doing this on purpose. We don't know that for sure. Could be strays. Could be." "No." Marcus shook his head. "This dog had a leash, tied to a pipe. Someone put him there." Dr. Pritchard's jaw tightened. "Did you call the police?" "Not yet. You should." "I will. "Can I see him first?" She nodded and led him into the back. The dog was lying on a padded table, and 4-line running into his front leg. He looked smaller under the bright lights, fragile, but his eyes were open, and when Marcus stepped closer, the dog's tail gave a weak thump. Marcus reached out, letting the dog sniff his hand. Then he ran his fingers gently over the animal's head. That's when he noticed the collar. It was old, cracked leather, half hidden under the matted fur. Marcus carefully turned it, looking for a tag. There was one, engraved in faded letters. Finn. 912-555-0147. Marcus pulled out his phone and typed in the number. Dr. Pritchard watched him. "You think someone's looking for him? Only one way to find out." He pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then someone picked up. A man's voice. Low, cautious. "Who is this?" Marcus kept his tone even. "I found a dog. Caller says his name is Finn. This number was on the tag." Silence. Then, "Where did you find him?" "Valdosta. In a storm drain." Another pause. Longer this time. "That's impossible," the man said. "Finn's been dead for 6 months. The line went dead. If you're feeling the same chill Marcus just felt, subscribe now. Because this story is about to go somewhere none of us expected. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat in his apartment with all the lights on, staring at his phone. The man's voice kept replaying in his head. Finn's been dead for 6 months. But the dog wasn't dead. The dog was alive, recovering at the vet clinic. Real, breathing. So either the man was lying, or someone had brought a dead dog back from the grave. Neither option made sense. By morning, the rain had stopped. The streets were slick and gray, puddles reflecting the overcast sky. Marcus drove back to the vet clinic and found Dr. Pritchard doing rounds. "How's he doing?" Marcus asked. "Better. Ate some food this morning. He's a fighter." Marcus nodded. "I need to ask you something. The other dogs you mentioned, the ones found like Finn, do you still have their records?" Dr. Pritchard frowned. "Why?" "Because I think someone's been taking dogs, using them for something, and I need to know if I'm right." She studied him for a long moment. Then she led him into her office and pulled up a file on her computer. "2 dogs," she said. "Both found in similar conditions. One in October, one in November. Both had collars. Both had tags with phone numbers." "Did you call the numbers?" "Animal control did. Both numbers were disconnected." Marcus leaned closer. "What about addresses? Vet records? Microchips?" Dr. Pritchard clicked through the files. The October dog had a microchip, registered to an address on Mercer Road. Owner was listed as... She paused. "James Carraway." Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. What happened to the dog? Animal control took him. I don't know what happened after that. And the November dog? No chip. No records. He was adopted out through a rescue. Marcus pulled out his phone and searched for the address. Mercer Road was on the north side of town. Rural. Isolated. The kind of place where you could do things and no one would notice. "Thank you," Marcus said. Dr. Pritchard stood. "If you're thinking about going out there, maybe you should call the police first." Maybe. But he didn't. The house on Mercer Road looked abandoned. Peeling paint. Broken shutters. A yard overgrown with weeds and kudzu. A rusted pickup truck sat in the driveway, tires flat, windows covered in grime. Marcus parked on the street and walked up the gravel path. The air smelled like wet earth and rot. No lights in the windows. No sound except the wind moving through the trees. He knocked on the front door. Nothing. He knocked again. Harder this time. Still nothing. Marcus stepped off the porch and walked around the side of the house. The backyard was worse. A chain-link fence, half collapsed. Old dog crates stacked against the back wall. Empty food bowls scattered in the mud. And then he saw the shed. It was small, metal, padlocked. Marcus approached slowly, every instinct telling him to turn around. But he didn't. He grabbed the padlock and pulled. It held. He looked around. found a piece of rusted rebar in the weeds, and wedged it into the lock. He pulled, twisted. The lock snapped. The door swung open. Inside, the shed was dark. Marcus pulled out his phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam swept across the space, and he saw them, collars, dozens of them, hanging from hooks on the wall, each one with a name tag, each one old, worn, some of them covered in dirt, some of them stained with something darker. Marcus stepped closer, reading the names. Finn, Max, Bella, Duke, Sadie. His stomach turned. These weren't just collars. They were trophies. And in the corner of the shed, lying on the ground, was a notebook. Marcus picked it up and opened it. Inside were pages and pages of handwritten notes, dates, locations, names, and next to each name a single word, collected. The last entry was dated 3 days ago. The name, Finn. Marcus's hands shook as he flipped to the next page. And there, at the top in fresh ink, next, Riley. Pine Street, December 20th. Tomorrow. If you're already thinking about what Marcus should do next, hit subscribe and drop a comment. Would you call the police? Or would you go back to Pine Street yourself? Marcus drove straight to the Valdosta Police Department. The officer at the front desk was young, mid-20s, scrolling through a tablet with the bored expression of someone working the slowest shift of their life. "Can I help you?" he asked without looking up. "I need to report a crime," Marcus said. That got his attention. The officer set down the tablet. "What kind of crime?" "Animal cruelty. Possibly more. I found evidence that someone's been abducting dogs and—" "Slow down. Start from the beginning." Marcus took a breath and told him everything. The dog in the drain. The collar. The phone call. The house on Mercer Road. The shed full of collars. The notebook with names and dates. The officer listened, taking notes. When Marcus finished, the officer set down his pen. "And you said you broke into this shed?" Marcus nodded. The property looked abandoned. The lock was rusted. Still breaking and entering. "I know. But the notebook. We'll look into it. Give me the address." Marcus wrote it down. The officer glanced at the paper, then at Marcus. "We'll send someone out. Probably take a day or two." "A day or two?" Marcus leaned forward. "There's a dog on that list scheduled for tomorrow. Pine Street. The name is Riley." "We'll look into it," the officer repeated. "In the meantime, don't go back to that property. And don't try to find this Riley dog yourself. If what you're saying is true, you could be interfering with an active investigation." Marcus felt heat rising in his chest. "An investigation that doesn't exist yet." "Sir, I understand you're concerned, but I'm not concerned. I'm telling you someone is out there right now planning to hurt another animal, and you're telling me to wait." The officer's expression hardened. "I'm telling you to let us do our job." Marcus stood. "Fine. Thanks for your time." He walked out. He sat in his truck, hands gripping the steering wheel. The officer was right about one thing. If Marcus went back to Pine Street, if he interfered, he could make things worse. Legally, evidentially. But if he didn't go, another dog would end up in a drain. Or worse. He thought about the boy in Iraq. The crate. The hesitation that almost cost a life. He thought about the leash tied around Finn's neck. The deliberate cruelty of it. And he thought about the name on the next page of that notebook. Riley. Marcus started the engine and drove to Pine Street. Pine Street at night looked like every other quiet suburban block in America. Streetlights casting yellow pools on the pavement. Porch lights glowing behind curtains. A few cars parked along the curb. Marcus drove slowly, scanning the houses. He didn't know which one Riley belonged to. Didn't know if Riley was even real. But the notebook had been specific. Pine Street, December 20th. Tomorrow was December 20th. He parked 2 blocks down and walked back, keeping to the shadows. The rain had started again, light and cold. He pulled up his hood and kept moving. Then he heard it. Barking. Frantic. High-pitched. Coming from one of the houses on the left. Marcus crossed the street, moving toward the sound. The barking grew louder, more desperate. He followed it to a small house with a chain-link fence and a dim porch light. In the backyard, a dog was throwing itself against the fence, barking at something in the alley beyond. Marcus approached the fence. The dog stopped barking and stared at him. A border collie mix, black and white, wearing a red collar. "Hey, Riley," Marcus said quietly. The dog's ears perked up. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He'd guessed right. He looked toward the alley. It was dark, empty, but something had set Riley off. Something or someone had been there. Marcus pulled out his phone and called 911. 911, what's your emergency? I'm on Pine Street in Valdosta. I think someone's about to abduct a dog. Sir, can you repeat that? Someone is targeting a dog. I have evidence. I need officers here now. The dispatcher paused. Are you in immediate danger? No, but I'll send an officer to your location. Stay where you are. Marcus hung up and turned back to Riley. The dog was staring at the alley again, growling now, low and steady, and then Marcus saw it. A figure, standing at the far end of the alley, not moving, just watching. Marcus took a step forward. Hey! The figure turned and ran. Marcus didn't think. He just ran after them. The figure was fast. Marcus sprinted down the alley, boots splashing through puddles, breath coming hard. The figure turned left at the end of the block, cutting through a side yard. Marcus followed, vaulting over a low fence, landing hard on the other side. He could see them ahead, tall, lean, wearing a dark hoodie, moving with purpose. Marcus pushed harder, closing the distance. 50 feet, 40, 30. The figure glanced back, and for half a second, Marcus saw their face. A man, mid-40s, pale, thin lips pressed into a tight line. Then the man veered right, cutting through a parking lot behind a closed grocery store. Marcus followed, legs burning. He was close now, 20 feet. Stop! Marcus shouted. The man didn't stop, but he stumbled. His foot caught on a loose piece of asphalt, and he went down hard, skidding across the wet pavement. Marcus was on him in seconds, pinning him to the ground. Don't move, Marcus said, voice low and controlled. Don't even think about it. The man didn't struggle. He just lay there, breathing hard, face pressed against the asphalt. Marcus pulled out his phone and called 911 again. This is Marcus Webb. I'm in the parking lot behind the grocery store on Pine and 4th. I've apprehended a suspect in a series of animal abductions. Send officers now. He hung up and looked down at the man. Who are you? The man didn't answer. I said, who are you? Still nothing. Marcus tightened his grip. I found the shed. I found the notebook. I know what you've been doing. The man let out a low, bitter laugh. You don't know anything. Then tell me. Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer. The man turned his head, just enough to look at Marcus with one eye. You think you saved them. You think you're a hero. I think you're a coward who ties up defenseless animals and leaves them to die. The man's expression didn't change. They weren't defenseless. They were test subjects. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What? You heard me. The man's voice was calm now. Clinical. I was studying survival rates, pain thresholds, how long they could last under extreme conditions. You're insane. I'm a scientist. You're a monster. The sirens were close now. Flashing lights reflected off the wet pavement. The man smiled. You'll never find them all. Marcus leaned closer. Find what? But before the man could answer, 2 police cruisers screeched into the parking lot. Officers jumping out with guns drawn. Hands where we can see them. Both of you. Marcus raised his hands. I'm the one who called. This is the suspect. The officers approached, one of them pulling Marcus off the man while the other cuffed him. Are you Marcus Webb? One of the officers asked. Yeah. We got your call. Dispatch said something about a dog. Marcus nodded toward the man. He's been abducting dogs, torturing them. I found evidence at a house on Mercer Road. There's a shed, a notebook, He's been documenting everything. The officer glanced at the man, then back at Marcus. We'll need you to come down to the station and give a full statement. Fine. But you need to check on a house on Pine Street. There's a dog there named Riley. This guy was targeting it tonight. We'll send someone. The officers hauled the man to his feet. He didn't resist. Just looked at Marcus one last time. You think you stopped me, the man said. But you have no idea what you've started. Then they put him in the back of the cruiser and drove away. Subscribe now if you want to know what that man meant. Because what Marcus finds next is going to change everything. Marcus spent 3 hours at the police station. They took his statement, asked him about the shed, the notebook, the collars. They confirmed that the man in custody was James Carraway, the registered owner of the house on Mercer Road. No priors. No record. Just a quiet, unremarkable man who'd been torturing animals for at least 6 months. By the time Marcus left, it was after midnight. The rain had stopped, but the air still felt heavy. Wrong. He drove back to Mercer Road. The property was taped off now, marked as a crime scene. But no one was there. The police had already processed the shed. Marcus ducked under the tape and walked around to the back. The shed door was open, the padlock hanging loose. Marcus stepped inside and shone his phone light around the space. The collars were gone, bagged as evidence. But the walls were still there. The hooks, the faint stains on the concrete floor, and something else. A loose board in the corner. Marcus knelt down and pulled at it. The board came away easily, revealing a hollow space beneath. Inside was a metal box. Marcus lifted it out, heart pounding. He opened it. Inside was a map, hand-drawn, detailed, showing roads and intersections around Valdosta. And on the map, marked with red X's, were locations. 12 of them, each one labeled with a date and a name. Marcus's hands shook as he read them. Fin. Pine Street, December 17th. Max River Road, October 3rd. Bella, Oakmont Drive, November 12th. And at the bottom of the map in fresh ink, Phase 2. Begin January 5th. Marcus stared at the words. Phase 2. What the hell was Phase 2? He pulled out his phone and took pictures of the map. Then he put everything back and left. Marcus was halfway home when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello. Silence. Then a voice. A woman's voice. Shaking. Terrified. Is this Marcus Webb? Yeah. Who is this? My name is Claire Dennison. I saw the news. About the man they arrested. James Carraway. Marcus pulled over. What about him? He was my brother. Marcus felt his blood go cold. Your brother? Yes, and I need to tell you something. Something the police don't know. Then tell the police. I can't. They won't believe me. But you found the dogs. You stopped him. You'll understand. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. Understand what? Claire's voice dropped to a whisper. James wasn't working alone. Marcus met Claire Dennison at a diner on the edge of town. She was in her late 30s, thin, with dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. They sat in a back booth. Claire ordered coffee but didn't drink it. She just stared at the cup, hands wrapped around it like she was trying to hold on to something solid. Tell me, Marcus said. Claire took a breath. James wasn't always like this. When we were kids, he was normal, smart, kind, but he got obsessed with this idea. He wanted to understand pain, not just physical pain, emotional pain. He thought if he could measure it, quantify it, he could help people. By torturing animals? Claire flinched. He didn't see it that way. He called it research. He said animals were the only way to study survival instincts without legal complications. That's insane. I know. I tried to stop him. I reported him to animal control twice. But he was careful. He moved around, changed methods. And then, she paused. He found someone who believed in his work. Marcus leaned forward. Who? I don't know their name. James called them the sponsor. They gave him money, resources, place to work. In exchange, James sent them his data. Data on what? How long the animals survived. How they reacted to isolation, fear, pain. The sponsor wanted to know how far a living thing could be pushed before it broke. Marcus felt sick. Why? Claire looked up at him, eyes red. I don't know. But James said phase 2 was supposed to start in January. He said the sponsor wanted to move beyond animals. The words hung in the air. Marcus's mind raced. Do you know where this sponsor is? No. James never told me. But I found something. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. This was in his apartment. I took it before the police searched the place. She handed it to Marcus. He unfolded it. It was a business card. Plain. White. No name. Just a phone number and a single line of text. For those who seek to understand the limits of endurance. Marcus stared at the card. Did you call the number? No. I was too scared. Give it to the police. I will. But I wanted you to know first. Because if the sponsor is still out there, they're gonna keep going. And next time, it won't be dogs. Marcus went back to the vet clinic the next morning. Finn was awake, standing now, tail wagging slowly when Marcus walked in. Dr. Pritchard was in the exam room, checking his vitals. He's made a full recovery, she said. Physically, at least. Marcus knelt down, and Finn walked over, pressing his head against Marcus's hand. What happens to him now? Marcus asked. Legally, he's a stray. No one claimed him. He'll go to a shelter unless... Dr. Pritchard looked at Marcus. Unless someone adopts him. Marcus looked down at the dog, at the scars on his legs, the cautious, hopeful look in his eyes. I'll take him, Marcus said. Dr. Pritchard smiled. I thought you might. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus gave the police everything. The map, the business card, Claire's testimony. The case against James Carraway grew. But the sponsor remained a ghost. The phone number on the card was disconnected. The investigation stalled. Marcus didn't stop looking. He kept digging, kept asking questions, kept following leads that went nowhere. But every night when he came home to his small apartment, Finn was there, waiting, tail wagging, a reminder that some things could be saved. And that was enough. For now. June in Valdosta was hot and thick, the kind of heat that made you move slow and think slower. Marcus sat on his porch, Finn lying at his feet, watching the sun dip behind the trees. His phone buzzed. A text from Claire. They found something. Call me. Marcus dialed. Claire answered on the first ring. They arrested someone. In Florida. A woman. She had records. Data from James's experiments. They think she's connected to the sponsor. Marcus exhaled. Did she talk? Not yet. But the FBI is involved now. They think this is bigger than we thought. Marcus looked down at Finn. The dog's eyes were closed, breathing steady. Safe. Keep me updated, Marcus said. I will. He hung up and leaned back in his chair. The world was full of monsters. People who hurt the helpless for reasons Marcus would never understand. But it was also full of people who heard the cries others ignored. Who stopped. Who climbed down into the dark. And maybe that was the point. You didn't have to save everyone. You just had to save the one in front of you. Finn's tail thumped against the porch. Marcus reached down and scratched behind his ears. Good boy, he said softly. Good boy. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus felt something he thought he'd lost in Iraq. Purpose. If the story moved you, if it made you think about the Rileys and the Finns in your own town, subscribe. Because there are more stories out there. More people who need someone to hear them. And maybe, just maybe, that someone is you.